The year is 2047. The world is now under the tightened grip of an all-powerful, artificially intelligent, DeFi-based protocol. The leading protocol, Olympus DAO, is now a demigod. The Olympus DAO token is now the world's reserve currency, and the protocol has hoarded every single asset in human existence into its treasury, making its net worth 10 times the amount of all money in existence. Everyone is in debt to the protocol. Because of life extension technology, people are forced to work day and night for the next 1,000 years to pay off their debt to Olympus. Pray for all mankind. How would you like to invest in Olympus DAO and make money? That's right, folks. If you invest now, you could become a trillionaire in Earth's dystopian future. And according to this calculator, you could have up to 50 Lambos. Want to speed up your gains? Don't waste time with normie gains. Get out of the wager cage fast.
Enjoy a cake filled with delicious fresh fruit. The secret is easy and super exciting.
If you were anything like me, stumbling upon the subject of Ohm forks and Olympus DAO and Rebase tokens, you've probably already watched 3 or 4 videos by now until you finally had the courage to say, F it, I don't understand anything. So perhaps with my help, this will be the last video you need. Now I can explain to you why. A. Ridiculous returns on investments are possible. B. Why this is the most probable evolution of decentralized finance. And C. Why this monster may destroy us all. First, I want to introduce the first character to this story. His name is Olympus DAO, or as I like to think of him as, Cell from Dragon Ball Z. Remember that green monster that was souped up in a lab by a mad scientist who would go around and suck the life force out of strong fighters to become a stronger fighter? That reminds me a little bit of what Olympus DAO is. Olympus DAO is a protocol, and the more capital he sucks up, the more powerful he becomes. In the beginning stages, no one was sure whether baby Olympus would survive into adulthood. He was the kind of protocol where every day he lived was another day that would prove he wasn't going to die. And he was nurtured at the teat with nourishing capital and the tender loving care from a fanatical fan base. And slowly, this beautiful monstrosity is now worth $714 million. Where did this money come from? Who would give money to a non-sentient entity? After all, it's neither living nor breathing. We can now introduce our second character to the story. This is the fanatical fan base that nurtured the little baby protocol till it was big and strong. These fanatics are called Ohmies, loyal devotees of the Ohm protocol. Each of them has given assets to the Olympus DAO treasury in the form of US dollars or Ethereum in exchange for Ohm tokens. In exchange, the Olympus DAO offers them unbelievable returns if the Ohmies stake their tokens. 50,000%, 70,000%, 100,000% APYs. There are a number of threads to pay attention to, so listen closely. When an Ohmie purchases some Olympus DAO from the Ohm protocol, let's use an example of $1. The protocol creates 1 Ohm token out of thin air to give to the buyer. Simple as. The protocol prints a number on a screen, and in exchange, he gets 1 actual US dollar. He now has the right to print even more Ohm tokens to put into the treasury. This is a similar concept to fractional reserve banking, whereby a bank is allowed to loan money out for profit at a rate that exceeds the total deposits it has in its balance. Except, unlike the bank, the Ohm protocol uses those additional printed tokens to distribute them to the loyal Ohmies who have their Olympus DAO tokens staked with the protocol. But how isn't the value of the tokens diluted from all the supply inflation? One way the protocol avoids runaway inflation is by controlling all the Olympus DAO tokens available on the market. Protocol-owned liquidity is a concept where the protocol controls the liquidity in the market, ensuring that if you purchase Olympus DAO on Uniswap, you're certainly buying directly from the protocol who owns 99% of the liquidity. This prevents profit-driven yield farmers who supply the liquidity for coins on the decentralized exchange from dumping their tokens.
And now the market. Oh! we went to zero!
The protocol, by comparison, will never dump its own token. Therefore, no one has to worry about large yield farming whales dumping their bags on the market. In addition, because the Olympus DAO protocol owns all the liquidity for the swap pairs, this has the added benefit of generating massive gains from the yields, which in turn, it takes into its treasury and showers even more rewards onto its devoted ohmies. But the most important aspect to the management of this house of cards has nothing to do with ingenious algorithms or the manipulation of tokenomics. Instead, it's a hack on human psychology. Ohmies are in what you would call the cult of 3-3. Perhaps you've seen this meme placed in people's Twitter handles or in YouTube descriptions with no further explanations. 3-3 is a reference to the prisoner's dilemma. In the graphic, you can see two prisoners, prisoner A and prisoner B, who both committed a crime together. Each prisoner can do one of two things: confess their crime or stay silent. If both confess, then they get the same jail time. If one confesses and the other remains silent, the one who confesses will have a lower sentence and the one who remains silent will have a higher sentence. But the conclusion of the prisoner's dilemma is that the third option, for both to cooperate by remaining silent, is the most beneficial outcome. How this applies to the ohmies, any one of them at any time can pull out their stake of Olympus DAO tokens and in turn take profit by dumping their bags on their fellow ohmies, forcing the price to drop. But here's the catch. The more people that pull their money out of the protocol, the higher the APY rate of returns get. So the people who didn't pull out and choose to 3-3, aka cooperate, will be rewarded by getting higher and higher annualized returns. What's more is that stakers receive their rewards from the protocol every 8 hours, which goes directly into their staking balances, allowing for compound interest to take place. It's not as noticeable after a few days of staking, but after 200 to 300 days, the effects of compound interest become enormous. And that's how these ridiculous annualized returns become possible. So you'll never be able to make these kinds of gains if you keep pulling out on your fellow ohmies. And besides, if you pull out, the deal's just going to get even sweeter for everyone else that didn't pull out. And it's because of this reasoning, ohmies choose to 3-3 as opposed to selling. And thus, no matter how many new ohm tokens Olympus DAO prints, the house of cards remains. This thing is a monster, an abomination of the puristic ideals of cryptocurrency. It uses fractional reserve-like banking practices to cause inflation, and it acts like a Ponzi scheme where the old buyers feed off the new buyers. And it has a cult-like following who've abandoned all reason to even take profits. Why would a monster like this be created?
It is not only possible, it is essential. That is the whole idea of this machine, you know.
You see, the Olympus DAO protocol fills in a special problem DeFi 1.0 has. And this problem is what's stopping wider scale adoption from taking place. Allow me to explain. Decentralized finance has been a way for crypto holders to make gains in the market outside of just speculating on the price going up or down. In times past, the way people would make money with crypto was simply to buy and hold a coin, wait till it goes up, then sell into the US dollar where you could take profit. But DeFi offered a different solution.
Until now, this was the only way to get juice from an orange.
You mean there's a better way?
Instead of pulling your crypto out of the market, you could keep it in a decentralized protocol that will allow you to make passive interest. And if you didn't want to be exposed to the volatility of the crypto markets, fine. You can keep your crypto in a US dollar-backed stablecoin and still be getting passive interest. And thus, DeFi was born. People would lend their crypto assets to a decentralized exchange to be used as liquidity for trading purposes. And in return, they receive fees when people buy or sell using their crypto. The liquidity providers, who we call yield farmers, get a return for their service, and the buyers were able to receive the coins they wanted. The problem is, we need a third win, a win for the decentralized exchange. Despite being a non-human entity, the decentralized exchange, DEX for short, isn't a charity, and it needs money to keep the operation running. You see, the DEX doesn't own anything. The way it provides liquidity to people that want to use the exchange is by renting the liquidity from yield farmers who are happy to lend their liquidity for short-term profit. The key word here is short term, because interest rates vary wildly depending on supply and demand, and the yield farmers, who also aren't running a charity, will dump their bags of a coin they were once yield farming so they can pick up another coin they can yield farm for even higher interest rates. And as a result of the bag dumping, prices for coins can swing wildly. The liquidity for that coin may dry up, and additional expenses involved with buying and selling that coin, such as slippage, will become much more costly. So because of this, DEXs have a problem maintaining a stable supply of liquidity for a coin because the incentives for the DEXs and the yield farmers are misaligned. Because the DEX doesn't own any of its liquidity, it's forced to permanently rent the liquidity from others, making its cost of capital extremely high. So DEXs aren't that profitable, and it's for this reason I believe that DEX coins have generally underperformed since their debut in the summer of 2020. Therefore, for all those reasons, despite the mass adoption of DeFi, DEXs are still inferior to centralized exchanges. And as centralized exchanges continue to solidify their place in the cryptocurrency ecosystem, only more so does crypto run the risk of reversing all the cryptocurrency once stood for, such as anti-government regulation, anti-censorship, and the right to remain anonymous. So what is it that Rebase tokens do that would fix all these problems? Simple, it goes straight to the source of the issue. It makes a profitable protocol. Instead of renting its liquidity from disloyal yield farmers, it instead outright owns its own liquidity itself. If it owns the liquidity outright, then it can cut out the middleman and save huge amounts of money from having to offer higher and higher interest rates. If it owns the liquidity outright, then it can cut out the middleman and save huge amounts of money from having to offer higher and higher interest rates to secure the loyalty of yield farmers. Instead, it can take the trading fees for itself and build up its profits. This is what we call protocol-owned liquidity. As you can see on the left, the standard model for renting liquidity makes it so the protocol never grows. But a protocol that owns the liquidity can actually grow. And instead of only attracting short-term degens who try to pillage as much wealth from the protocol before they move on, it takes these degens and turns them into hyper-loyal fanatics who know that a better deal on potential APY doesn't exist anywhere else in the DeFi space by far. In order for DeFi to reach the next level, it needs to be scalable. There needs to be greater incentives for crypto holders to lock their crypto into the ecosystem as opposed to just pulling out their gains into fiat money. The more money that gets locked into the ecosystem, the more opportunities for making money there will be. The more decentralized applications there will be. The faster technology will develop. The greater the network effect is going to come, the more people that will rely on the cryptocurrency ecosystem, and all these things in turn leads to there being more money locked away in the ecosystem. And it's this symbiotic cycle that grows the cryptocurrency ecosystem potentially to the point of terminal velocity and leading to total cryptocurrency adoption. So finding ways to lock money into these protocols is key to growing the crypto economy, and Olympus DAO may be on the cutting edge of solving these problems. No one can say for sure what's going to happen to the future of one particular protocol, but these Rebase tokens in general, even if one fails, another one will come up surpassing its predecessors, learning from previous mistakes. What can be said for certain is already the technology is increasing in its complexity. For instance, KlimaDAO is a Rebase token who, in its treasury, is trying to acquire carbon credits. Whether you believe in man-made climate change or not, KlimaDAO does, and KlimaDAO wants to eliminate climate change by aiming to monopolize the market on carbon credits. Remember those carbon credits we were hearing about 10 years ago or so that was supposed to incentivize companies, factories, and even individuals to be only given the right to pollute based on how many carbon credits they owned? Well, it didn't work out because the market for trading carbon credits wasn't profitable, and thus the free market decided that such a thing was to be canned to the wastebasket of history. Well, now KlimaDAO has been Frankenstein to life with part Olympus DAO and part Greta Thunberg to make a market climate where carbon credits may actually be profitable to trade. When KlimaDAO receives money into its treasury, it uses that money to purchase carbon credits on the open market. It's the value of these carbon credits that gives value to its native token, the KlimaDAO token. Its goal is to get as many carbon credits off the market and not sell them in order to create a supply shock and make people actually want to invest in carbon credits. It's a brilliant plan, if you believe in this stuff. Soon, an unelected plutocrat is going to ask you 5 carbon credits just to have a burp. And because KlimaDAO is going to own 99% of all carbon credits, it now costs $200 just to have a burp. Using carbon credits as an example, you can see how protocol could own anything, really. It could own gold ETFs, stocks from around the world, reserves of currency from different countries, copyright patents to music, books, or inventions. It could place any digital asset that's either revenue generating or simply a store of value and lock it into its treasury, giving its token great stability and stable growth. Olympus DAO already has a market cap of $2.5 billion, but the incentives to stake Olympus DAO token are going to be just as strong whether it's $2.5 billion or $250 billion. Sure, the APY will be drastically lower, but the safety of using the protocol will be drastically greater at the same time, particularly for institutional money who'd be happy getting a measly 6% annual rate of return. So a protocol like Olympus DAO may have the ability to indefinitely scale. Could the protocol eventually start owning real estate, perhaps carved out chunks of whole countries? With the ability to borrow from the protocol, could it become so large that eventually whole governments are indebted to the protocol? Could a protocol come along that's run by an advanced AI whose sole purpose is to make as much money as possible and it endeavors to enslave humanity to enrich itself? We really don't know, but it's possible in some dark dystopian nightmare. The truth is, cryptocurrency has unlocked the potential to emancipate humanity from eons of servitude from a sociopathic managerial class. Perhaps we could avoid this dystopian timeline and use the technology to empower our destinies and get 50 Lambos. This is a new channel, and such a small action like pressing the like button does wonders for the YouTube algorithm, and we can grow this channel together. And if you like these kinds of videos and learning new ways you can make money in crypto, then hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you soon.